Let's talk all about AI in business. It's hosted by Brent Muller. Welcome to the Future Proof Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of the Future Proof Podcast. I'm your host, Brent Muller. We have a really exciting guest today. Before we jump in with Rob here, for those of you just joining the podcast, we're a B2B growth SaaS company. We help B2B companies scale their revenue, built by our own AI-powered platform, which gets 2 to 5 better results than usually any of the tech out there. So if you want to learn more and take your business to the next level, make sure you stick around. Or if you're just interested in just a quick call with us, drop the word growth in the comments or DM us, and we will get right back to you. But let's get into today's episode. Rob. And welcome Rob Denicola from SRD2 Consulting. RCD2. I knew I was gonna jumble it. So my apologies. Rob, and this is gonna be great because Rob's got 3 different companies he's gonna jump into, and that's just one of them. And but Rob, welcome. Thank you for spending this time with us.
Oh, I appreciate you inviting me to have a chance to talk.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's start with your background and your journey. I mean, you got your hands in a lot of things. I know you'd like to be skiing, but you just don't have time to. So.
Yeah, it's been an interesting journey. I started off wanting to be an attorney out of college and became a stockbroker.
Really?
So it makes sense that I help medical device and technology companies.
Yeah, that's a perfectly logical jump, right?
I made a jump into the life sciences field back in like 2003. And in 2005, I got into my first startup company. And basically since then, I've lived in the startup, privately held medical life science companies. And in that time, I've worked from carrying a bag, being a sales grunt, up to being a chief commercial officer. And everything in between. Wow. So, I know a little bit about everything. Am I good at any of it? I don't know, but at least I've been exposed to it and know about it. And I owe a lot of that to some really great mentors I met along the way who gave me the opportunity to grow and hang myself and learn from my mistakes and kind of build the career that I have right now.
Amazing. So why don't you tell the audience a little bit about the things you got your hands in right now, because it's a lot. And I'm also interested to see later in the episode about how you juggle.
Yeah, I mean, so first and foremost, I have a small boutique consulting firm called RCD2 Consulting, based out of the Boston area. We work with a lot of pre-seed, pre-series A, medtech, med device, robotic companies, help them with the commercialization plans and fundraising. Right now, I'm also the fractional chief commercial officer for Ayres, which is a respiratory company, startup, great founder who is a respiratory therapist out in Michigan. We're looking to change the way we treat patients who need supplemental oxygen. It's a really big problem, aging population, COVID, worldwide thing. We're trying to solve that with some new technology, again, in AI for monitoring patients. And I'm working for a company as well called Virtuox. We're trying to revolutionize the idea behind cardio and sleep. A lot of people don't realize sleep apnea and cardiovascular disease and arrhythmias are linked together. And we're trying to solve that problem. And solve that problem and bring awareness to that as well. So 3 different things, all very varied and different, and focusing time on all of them is fun.
No kidding. And are you still entertaining more of the pre-seed stuff with RCD?
It depends. I mean, I'm always open for a conversation. I love talking advice for free. I just love being exposed to all the great ideas. I'm based in the Boston area, and I go to events like we just had one in UMass Lowell, M2D2. It's a great incubator for medtech startups. A lot of MIT grads who are founders who worked on great stuff in school, who are bringing stuff to the public. It's a great ecosystem, and just being exposed to it helps me understand what's coming and also exposes me to a lot of different ideas. And I don't care how old you are or how long you've been doing something, new ideas are always good.
Always good. That's actually really good advice. So let's dive into a couple of these. So and any of the other ones that you've been involved in.
Sure.
Can you kind of talk through basically how these companies, like when you get involved, to where you're trying to get them to? Because I would imagine it's different depending on your role within some of these. Like Ayres is probably different, right, than the med device company, right, that you're doing.
Yeah, they're different. The med device company has been founded for a while, well funded. They're looking to expose or gain access into the cardiology part of their sales. And cardiology is something I have expertise in, so I'm helping the sales force and helping them devise ways to penetrate that market. Ayres, we have a product that's going through, FDA 510K. We need money, so we're looking to raise our Series A, like $2.5 million right now. So that's a very different, two different skill sets, two very differently positioned companies, and that's kind of what I find myself getting involved in often is just companies that have different needs. So whether it's just trying to find money and product commercial fit, if it's even a good product that has a marketplace, or hey, we got something, how do we commercialize it? Can we get to X amount, whatever that number is? Can we scale there, and what do we need to do it?
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. And so when people come to you, do you have because again, I think there's part of it that's feel, right? And then there's part of it that is your due diligence of whether or not this is somebody you're going to take on and help. And if you have any stories from some past clients, kind of layer those in as well, because I would imagine that you've been in, had your hands in a bunch of different startups or pre-seed that were in the same boat, right? Whether they had to go through FDA approval, because we just had a podcast last week, 2 weeks ago, with someone that has a really unique vascular medical device, and they were the same thing. They were in their, I think, animal testing phase of where they're at, trying to get FDA approval, and so he said it was going to be 2 years before they could get to commercial. So how do you get involved in that whole journey?
I have been. And some of the most difficult conversations I've had with founders is great product, but where's the market for it? Especially when you deal with the medical side of it. And I'll give, I won't give you specific examples, but I'll give you an area where I see a lot of this happen is medical robotics. There are robots are going to change the world in surgery and treatment and all that. The biggest company now, and probably forever, we'll see, is Intuitive, right? Intuitive kind of Da Vinci machines. So everyone knows Da Vinci machines. They're everywhere. Everyone wants to get in there, have some kind of better robot. Tons of designs out there, but to scale that, to create that, get it through FDA, and then find a payer and a way to sell them into a hospital system is the hard part, right? Who's going to pay for it? And that's the biggest thing when it comes to anything on the medical side. Who's the end payer? Is it the patient? Is it insurance? And do you have a path to make money on that or find a way to get that paid for? Because if you don't, well, no matter how great it is, it's not gonna fly. And with robots, you had a lot of founders who were created great products, and their goal and their hope was to have a J&J or a Stryker or a Medtronic come and buy something. All those companies already bought their robots right now. So unless you're really unique or different, you're kind of like a me too right now. So you're seeing things even like disposable robots that are being created right now, like a disposable robot. Whoever thought of that?
How does that work?
I don't know, but I don't know how you scale it. I don't know how, but the point being is that there's stuff out there like that. So there's a bunch of great ideas, but the biggest problem that you have on this industry is just like, well, who's the end payer? And is there a way for profitability? And, if your goal was to create a good product, get some traction and hope to be acquired in an M&A by someone, well, that path's gotten a lot harder in the last 2 years than it was, back in 2020, 2021.
Wow. Well, yeah. And you and I talked about this before the podcast about how the money has totally got tighter since 2021, and a lot more scrutiny now. So how do you evaluate? Is that the single best criteria of like who's going to it's a good idea or a bad idea, but who's going to pay for it? And basically what the market is there other things that you look for in what makes a winner?
Company culture, usually the founder, the CEO, the C-suite, when you're in a startup world, culture is everything. You have to have a small team. You're usually run very lean. There can't be any room for egos and titles, right? I work for a small medical device robotics company, and I was the VP of commercialization there. And I would go around like I have a very fancy title, but I'm just a sales grunt. Right. And that is kind of the mentality of that company. Even the CEO, he was the CEO and he was a brilliant PhD guy from MIT, but, he was willing to get his hands dirty and was willing to talk to everybody, take ideas from everybody. That's a huge determination if you're going to be successful or not. If you're a founder and you're closed-minded, only the best ideas come from you, even though you may be brilliant, you may have gone to a great school, you may have come up with this great product, no one monopolizes all the great ideas. Right. And that's poison. I've seen, and I've worked for one, and I won't mention the name of the company, but where I was a VP there trying to commercialize them. And it was like Game of Thrones culture, which is not what you want for a startup company, right? You want everyone pulling in the same direction, where everyone is free to express ideas for the end result of meeting the company goal. And those are the two major things you have to look for: culture and product market fit.
Current product market fit. That makes a lot of sense. And so do you have some favorites that over the years that you have been involved with, and maybe even on the flip side, I know you mentioned one, but have you been involved with some that just didn't work out or they fizzled out?
Yeah, and the main reason they fizzled out was because of the founder. One, we were able to raise a lot of money. He's really good at being able to raise capital, but he went through it, and we never achieved commercial success. And they went through three different heads of commercialization, whether it was two CCO, a VP, and a CRO.
Yeah.
So if you go through
Change the
three
title
really,
and same result, right?
yeah, three solid people, well, maybe it's not the people you hired there that were the problem, kind of thing.
Right.
It's a track record, and it was good technology, and there was a path there. And then the other company I work for, and I'll say it, it's Barrett Technology. They've been around for over 30 years. I was brought in to launch their medical division back in 2019. Again, total bootstrap thing. Didn't have the money. I went in there with one vision of the money I'd have to launch this, and then I got a totally different one. And basically, it was me doing everything for a year myself, but great product, great company, great leadership. Whether you were in the C-suite or you were one of our manufacturers in the back, everyone was going for the same goal of being successful and making this work. And it worked. They're still very successful, and they're building on their success that I started. And again, it all came down to culture and why one failed and why one didn't.
Amazing. So tell me a little bit about now as you look down, because the industry is obviously evolving. Emerging tech is influencing it, right? To your point. Tell me what you're seeing, and then as you look down the road, what other things will impact it?
I think the biggest thing right now. Yeah, I mean, AI, like everything, right? AI is the future of a lot of the medical technology that we see, whether it's surgical planning, surgery, even treatment. AI is able to take so many different data points because it's fed so much stuff and all everything. It is able to diagnose cancer, make treatment for different diseases, help with surgical planning that are better than most humans, right? Because they have their ability to look at the data.
Crunch the data faster.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not just your experience with X, Y, Z disease state or surgery. It's the universe's experience. With disease state, right? So no matter how good of a surgeon you are, the AI is going to be better than you and many times quicker at diagnosing or figuring out a treatment plan. So I see that being a huge thing. And, there's already been talk at the Medical Robotics Society about at some point in time, will these machines even need doctors or surgeons to run them, or can they run by themselves? And that creates a lot of ethical questions and a lot of uncomfortable, shuffling in chairs of these surgeons of like, well, can we be replaced by these things? And the answer to that question is probably yes. But, it's still a long time before we get to like what you see in Star Trek and stuff like that, where they just put you in a machine and everything gets taken care of. But, it is something that's going that way. And most of the medical field, no matter what your specialty is, you're leaning on AI more and more every day.
Yeah. Is it trickling down? Like you're in the medical field, like does it trickle all the way down to your regular GPs? It doesn't seem like it is, but because it seems like it's way upstream to where you're at with the innovations in the hospitals and that kind of stuff.
Yeah, eventually it will. It's going to be able to look at a patient's overall profile and vitals and stuff like that, and probably be able to predict disease states that they may be prone to, or different cancers or maladies. It's not there yet. You don't see it, but I wouldn't be surprised at some point in time, like, oh yeah, this person presents in about 20 years, they're going to have dementia or like, prostate cancer or whatever it may be. It's only a matter of time. As more and more data gets fed into these things, more and more of it gets pushed downstream, like you said, where it does help with that too. Like, how can we manage this patient at age 30 so that at age 50 or 60, they're not going to be prone to congestive heart failure or something like that.
Yeah. How about, and honestly, it's really exciting to think about the breakthroughs in medical. It's a little scary in some aspect, but I think the positives outweigh the negatives. But what about on the business side, right? Because to me, it's kind of what we were talking about before, right? There's these smart, and it's any industry, right? But again, I'm going to stick with your industry because you know it, but there's founders that just, they know they have a great idea. They might not have done their product market fit, right? And that's a whole nother thing because I've seen that a zillion times. But on things like commercialization, right? How does data automation help you and or anybody on the growth side?
It's pretty amazing. One of the things I was a pretty early adapter to like ChatGPT when it first kind of came out. I want to
Yep.
kick tires on it, and now I use it for almost everything I do. ChatGPT, Perplexity, Grok, I use them all. They all
Yeah.
have their
Yeah, I do
strengths.
too.
Yeah, they all have their strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah.
Perplexity is great on the medical side because it gives you all citations and papers and
Right.
stuff like that.
It cites everything, right? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's really helpful there. But what I like to use it for is a lot of the companies that either I've worked for or that I help out are very limited in money. So the ability
Mm,
to make yourself seem bigger than you are by being able to produce more content, whether you're doing marketing, trying to do some like product market fit research,
yep.
commercialization ideas. AI is able to crunch a lot of numbers, give you a lot of information that normally would take a long time to do the old-fashioned way. I can think of just
Way
marketing
longer.
alone. Yeah, I
Right.
mean, one company I worked for before I got there, they let go of their marketing department, and I was able to basically replicate it by using AI. So I fear for the jobs in marketing going forward because
Yeah.
things that would take me a couple of days, a week, whether it be like email campaigns to targets or some marketing ideas, I can just pump some ideas in there, give it some guidelines, and it's going to push out a whole bunch of stuff to me in a
Yep.
couple seconds, and I'll
Yep.
keep on being able to tweak it. So, that is a great way. And even for founders right now, if you're not using AI to help you with your pitches to different targets,
Yeah.
you're behind because you can feed in who you are, your data room for the most part in there, and then how would I position selling it to X, Y, or Z VC firm, right?
Yeah.
And AI can give you a guideline of how you want to do it. So at
Yeah.
some point in time, it's going to put people like me out of business too, which is fine as a consultant because a savvy founder will be able to do a lot of the work themselves as long as they have a good enough understanding of how to use these programs.
Yeah. Yeah. I think where we're at right now, and Rob, tell me what you think about this. I tell everyone, again, everyone that watches the podcast knows that we call them digital coworkers or co-pilots, right? It's where the co-pilot came from. To your point about how you can make yourself look like, the work of five, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes. And I feel like, if you're thinking about a company, every department should be thinking exactly what you just said, right? If I'm doing marketing, I probably need less because but I need somebody that's all they think about is how do I create great content using AI with all these different inputs, right? If I'm doing sales, how do I make my pitch better? Again, if you had one person in every department, I mean, to me, that's how you really get good and go faster.
One of the companies I'm with right now, primary company I'm with right now is I tell the Salesforce, if you're not using AI to help you understand certain things, you're behind.
Yeah.
If you don't understand a certain disease state, you don't understand why a doctor gave you a certain objection, well, feed it into the AI, see what it comes out with.
Hmm.
And a lot of these have the chat feature, so you can have a conversation with it while you're driving. And, you're getting all this education. So it makes no difference on what level in your career you are, whether you're entry level salesperson or a CEO. These AI programs available to you make you better at what you do, make you more efficient at what you do. And for a lot of companies that are startups that are bootstrapping it right now, it makes you seem bigger than what you do and reduces the need to spend money on human capital, and capital being so precious. It's a really good way to fit or fill that void until you get the money you need to bring more people in. So it really is amazing and is underutilized to this day, even by the younger generation, because a lot of the sales team that I deal with are younger and they don't really maximize it either.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. One of the things I had a call with a client, I don't know, a week or so ago, saying the same thing. I said, look, if they had I don't know, seven sales reps, right? And I said, do you have them ranked? And and they said, well, okay, yeah, we do. I could tell you that one or two of our reps they close most of our business. And I said, do you realize if you just take their sales calls internal and fed it in ChatGPT, it would create scripts from those two reps to give to the other five, and now you have seven that can close at a much higher rate. Like there's simple things you can do that people just don't do.
No, I agree, and I bet those two reps have a better understanding of whatever they're selling, and that's the thing, right?
Exactly.
Is like, how do you get better at understanding things? You talk to an expert, and AI is an expert at pretty much everything. So if you want to have a conversation and better yourself on whatever topic it may be, whether it be sales or like how to pitch to a VC or PE, it's right there at your fingertips. ChatGPT is $20, so it's a month. If you need to buy some add-ons, so be it.
Right. What's it going to cost you? $50 most a month for what you need?
You can get PhD level work on ChatGPT. It's $200 a month.
Yeah.
If you need that, and if you're a medical device company, of course, you probably need something like that.
Yeah.
If you're having trouble doing grant writing is the lifeblood for a lot of companies, getting NIH grants or something like that. If you can't hire someone, how about giving it a shot with ChatGPT, see what it spits out?
Yeah. And you'll be shocked. You'll be shocked. So I have this, and I'll be sending this out. You'll get this in email, but we have this great prompt, the AI, we call it the AI mentor prompt, but it's basically a big challenging prompt, right? And it really gives you crazy honest feedback. But if you put it into Grok, right, and that sassy mode, sarcastic mode, you get some interesting things coming back. It will ground you.
I do love when Grok swears at me for calling me stupid for my ideas. So I do use that too, because again, sometimes it just makes you like, okay, idiot. And it's a great way too, because you can actually vet a lot of stuff by feeding it into the different AIs and see if they come back with similarities. Because AI is not perfect yet, but if you stress test it by running it through multiple AIs and do a little research yourself, you're going to know like, okay, this is 99% reliable. And again, a lot of founders, they're not giving like legal advice or not giving a presentation in front of the Supreme Court. You're trying to pitch or, make yourself more efficient at raising money or whatever you may want to get better at. So even if there's a 1% chance it's a little off, so be it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Couldn't say it better myself. So tell me, I said I was going to ask you a few questions towards the end. One, you've already given me 100 things you're using AI for, but is there something that you do specifically you think, hey, and other founders and CEOs would find this really interesting?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've always struggled with is pitch decks. Now, how do you make them short but also concise?
Yeah.
Sometimes you get into that thing like,
we all struggle with that, Rob.
Yeah. So now it's 20 slides and, well, how much do I need? Well, I need all of it. And you don't.
Yeah.
I've actually started using the AI a lot to help me make those a lot shorter and a lot more concise. And it's been actually pretty efficient at giving me, if not the design I'll use, but at least give me an idea of like how I can cut this down and make it more efficient. And I'm also starting to use it to feed in the information of whomever we might be pitching with, and seeing how I might tweak this to make it more appealing to whomever the pitch is being delivered to as well. So
nice. And so are you uploading the PowerPoint to it or,
I'm downloading the PowerPoint, letting it read through it and like giving me honest feedback. And, it's definitely crapped on a few of them. So which is pretty good, because sometimes you're so into the weeds with it and it's your baby and you're trying to get all this information out.
Yeah.
So you put a lot on there and it can be busy. Slides may make sense to you, but if you don't know your business or don't know the industry, it makes no sense to them. I find AI does a pretty good job of pointing at least that out. So it may not correct it for you, but it'll point it out and then you can go in and create it and change it around.
Especially if you tell what the outcome you're looking for. I want the audience to really want to engage with my product, or it's a sales pitch. We had another guy who did exactly what you did. He put it up in Grok, but it was his board presentation, and he's like basically tear me apart, and it did, and it refined it, right? And he said it was his best board presentation ever.
I could have used that before many of my board presentations, but didn't have AI back then, so
yeah,
so it's a little different. But yeah, I mean that's the beauty of it again, and like a lot of founders don't tailor their deck to their audience sometimes, so they use the same deck over and over again. Just like a sales pitch, you want to tailor it to fit the audience. So AI can help you tailor it if you give it the information about who you're pitching to, and hopefully it makes it more impactful. You only have one chance with a lot of these places, so if you blow it.
It's funny. I had two execs that just, one was presenting to the other, right? I had both VP level at a client, and one of them, a third party who, was kind of coaching one of them that was presenting the deck, said, "You wrote this for yourself. You did not write this for the audience. You wrote this on all the things that you want to basically say." And I'm like, oh, you know what? You're like what ChatGPT, he should put that in ChatGPT and say, this is what I'm trying to convey. And he would have got torn apart, right? And so there's just so many good, simple use cases for it to make you better at your job, right? Whatever that is.
And it goes back to what I said earlier. I don't care where you are in your journey in your career, whether you're made it to the top or starting in the beginning. There's just so much there that wasn't there just 5 years ago. to
Yeah.
help you get better at what you do. So it just comes down to like how seriously do you take your craft in some way?
Yeah.
Because now there's no
Yeah.
excuse not to be able to be better at what you do. It was easy when Google showed up, to make life easier. Now it's beyond easy because it's going to give you
Right.
citations. It's going to talk to you. It's going to be more conversational.
Totally agreed.
And a lot less fact finding. And back when I was in college, you had to go to a library, so
Yeah.
it even
I
worse.
know. Yeah,
So,
we're looking at encyclopedias and stuff. Yeah,
right.
it's ridiculous.
So now everything's at your fingertips, and yeah, everyone can be better at what they do.
Everybody can, no doubt about it. So I said I was going to ask you the magic wand question. If you look at one of the companies, again, you've done the sales and commercial growth for tons of companies. So you could pick any of them, but if you think about across them or any of the ones you're working on right now, if I gave you a magic wand and you could fix one thing, clear one hurdle, right, that helps you accelerate, what usually is that thing that you would want to help accelerate or clear obstacles?
I mean, the biggest thing to growth is being able to get access to capital. So if I had a magic wand, it'd be being able to identify the right VC firms to pitch to, no matter what company it is, because there's a ton of companies out there, and finding the right one, you have to kiss a lot of frogs to find your prince. If you could just make the kissing be a lot less and find the prince quicker, that'd be my magic wand. AI helps a bit, I think, with that, but it's still not perfect finding that right fit.
You know what I'm thinking, Rob? So I have a friend, right, who runs another podcast, Martin, and he does, he's a matchmaking service for CEOs and founders to put them on the right board seats that are open, right? What you're saying is we need to do that for capital firms, because not all capital firms are good fits for every, you want to find that, hey, give me the top 3 that are a fit for what I'm looking for.
Right. And a lot of my companies that I worked with or advise, I don't think VC is probably the right fit. So can you find the right, like a family fund or something like that, which is even sometimes harder. There's so many of them. Right. So how do you find that one that is going to be where what you're trying to do and your vision resonates with them? And you don't want to waste the time of somebody who just won't understand what you're doing or doesn't care. So if there was a way to just be able to streamline that down and just pitch to people who it really mattered to, it would greatly increase the amount of capital that flowed in to the companies that need to be funding, and also stop the frustrations of these VCs and PEs who are wasting their time talking to firms that they shouldn't be wasting their time with. It may look good someone may have looked at it quick and said, yeah, it's worth our time, but then, is it worth our time? So it becomes that.
Yeah, totally agree. Well, Rob, thank you for spending time with us today. Thank you for all the insights. We've done a few medical device companies, but not someone that had the consultancy side and the commercialization side. So I think that I'll also be sending this podcast out to those folks to watch it, because that's exactly what they need, some of those insights about that you provided today. So very much appreciated you spending this time with us.
Oh, I'm awesome. That could be of some help somewhere.
Absolutely. And hopefully you can get freed up, next year and actually hit the slopes.
I'd be happy just being able to go fishing soon once the ice gets out of the way. Gets out.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Rob. This wraps up this episode of the Future Proof Podcast, where we always say, change the plan, never the goal.
If you're ready to embrace change and lead with innovation, be sure to subscribe and never miss an episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Future Proof Podcast.